Hi, everyone. I'm Leite Youngren. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Triple Seat, and I want to welcome you to the final of our four-part series on marketing and selling your venues. I hope you've joined us. If you haven't for the past 2 days, all the recordings will be available. This is our final session. You will be learning about how to close a deal. Without further ado, here's Jonathan Morris, our CEO and leader of Triple Seat, to tell you how to close those deals.
There we go. Thanks, Leite.
Sure.
All right, let me grab the slides here. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We might have some new folks here. Just a brief intro for the new folks that joined us. My name is Jonathan Morris. I am the CEO and founder of Triple Seat. This is our fourth and final webinar, sales seminar, whatever you want to call it. And it's about closing the deal. The previous conversation webinar we had was about doing the demo or the middle of the funnel, using spin selling to get to the point where you can close the deal. We're going to have all these webinars be available online. Once we get them up there, you can grab them, watch them at your leisure. And if you have any questions, I'm all about my questions. Don't fear asking questions. Everybody learns from them, myself included. So you want to hit that Q&A button up there, type in your question as you think of it. And then at the end of this, I will answer those questions, and hopefully we can all learn something. So the last session we have here today is closing the deal. So this is the bottom of the funnel. We started the seminar with the top of the funnel, which is getting leads through marketing and through email and through cold calling. Our last session was the middle of the funnel, which is, talking to prospects and telling them the value that we bring to their event. And now we're going to talk about the end of the funnel, which is closing the deal. So, by the way, I've never met a salesperson in all my years, and I've been a VP of sales and a salesperson for 30 years, that is excellent at every aspect of the funnel. Some people are fantastic at the beginning of the funnel, and some people can't close a door, right? They can't close business to save their life. They can bring it in, but they can't finish it. And other people are adverse. They're like, I'm a natural closer, man. I can close. I can sell ice to an igloo, or to an Eskimo, and but I can't bring in new business. So, closing the deal, and what we're going to talk about here is the ability to be a good closer. And to be a good closer, a lot of people think it's because of you. And you're like gregarious, and you're like, let's make a deal and hubbity scrubbity. Most closers that I know are very, very mellow people, but their skill set is listening, and they understand the value that they're bringing to the client or to the prospect, and they know what they're selling, if you will, is more. Has more value to the competitors or to anything else. So they're comfortable in the close because they know what they're doing is adding value to that client, and they believe in the product that they're selling, and they're comfortable with that. They're making a fair and equitable deal with the prospect. So closing, there is a skill to it, but if you put all the building blocks in the right place, it shouldn't be that hard to close business. It really shouldn't. Now, if you put in the art of closing deals or how to close deals and Google that, you're going to get a bazillion replies back. A lot of it is just BS, to be honest with you. It's trickery. It's nonsense. But there are some good sources out there that can help you understand how to close those deals, and how to be a better closer if you will, on deals. So you should always be, as a salesperson, you should always be educating yourself on how to do sales. There's a bunch of really good sales books out there. Spin Selling, which I talked to about earlier, is should be number one with a bullet. It's not very exciting read, but it's going to change your life on how you do sales in the first place. Another one is the Challenger Sale. That one's fairly new, and it's a really interesting way of looking at how to be sales. And in a snapshot, what it's about is not. It's more about challenging your buyer, challenging their notions, without feeling you're putting yourself at risk of not being a personable person. It's an interesting twist. We use the Challenger Sale all the time. That the way that they describe it, and it's for me. I think it's an interesting way of looking at doing sales. Okay, so let's go into closing the deal. So you've done the spin selling. You've talked to the client. You received the lead. Now what do? Right? You answer their objections, and now they turned to you and said, "Hey, listen, I'm interested. This looks like it's for me. How much? Like, what can I do?" And this is the stage where you're probably going to say, "Well, let me send you a proposal." My suggestion here, for restaurants and hotels, is that you have the proposal and the contract combined. And you want to keep it under the KISS, which is keep it simple, silly. So we do, it used to be in person, it'll be in person again in 2021, a conference called Event Camp. And I'm not trying to pitch this, but we do a conference called Event Camp. We do it every year. We do it in the spring. We have about 200 to 300 event managers and sales managers from across the country come to this. And our first session always is a group session with professional event planners that restaurants and hotels sell to. And every single time we do it, we've had like 6 or 9 of them. And every time we do it, every time without fail, they say the proposals they get from restaurants and hotels are ridiculous. There's way too much information. It's chock full of pictures and nonsense. They hate it. And they always say, all we do is we take this silly proposal and we go to the last page and we want to see what they put down for pricing. So we have it on good authority that these elaborate, chock full of information proposals aren't doing what you think they're doing. So what you want to do is keep it simple. Don't complicate the close with a lot of proposal fluff. The reason you don't want to do that is because they're not reading it in the first place. And 2, it shows that you weren't listening to them. If they just had an hour meeting with you or a 30-minute site session with you, and you just throw everything in the kitchen sink about your restaurant or hotel at them, you didn't hear what their needs and wants were. You just didn't illustrate it at all. The proposal and contract should reflect the prospect's identified needs during the spin conversation. Simply start with, "Thank you for your interest in our restaurant or hotel. From our conversation we had, these are the 5 important things that you mentioned that are important to you for your event to be successful," and then list them out. That shows you heard them, right? Be precise with your ask and do not have too many pricing options. If you go in there and you give them option A, option B, Option C. Option D, you're opening yourselves up for wild negotiations, and you're going to confuse the buyer, because we've all done it. You do it. We do it all the time. We do it every day. We're comparing what the difference is between option A and option B, and why option B is $20 more ahead than option A, right? Why can't I get option B for option A's price, right? And so you're opening yourselves up for negotiations and for explanations on your proposals. Also, put every single charge in there. Nobody likes to be surprised. If you have an admin fee, you have an admin fee. Put it in there. If, sales and tax, what you think is going to be in there. Put it in there. If you have gratuity, put it in there. Like we all know this, if you're a plus house, make sure they know you're a plus. Don't hide it. Don't put like down here, there's all these different fees, because you're not fooling anybody. And it's also, it's suspect when you do that. It creates a feeling of, what else didn't they tell me? So make sure you clearly illustrate all the prices that could possibly come from it. A lot of times people say, should I include my menus? Sure, you can. But if your menu is a 40-page PDF, again, who has time to go through all of that to understand that? If you, during your spin, you had a deep conversation about exactly what they wanted to do, if they were very black and white about it, maybe you create a banquet event order and you include that as part of your proposal, with the idea that it could change, but at least they can see it. So in your proposals, you should take if you use Triple C, you should take a look at your proposal and your contract and try to combine it and try to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. And then finally, make it easy to sign and pay. To be honest with you, if you can't do it online, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's 2021. You should be able to do this online. Nobody wants to sign and scan and email you back your contract. Nobody. It's the modern version of a fax. And don't do it. You're just putting your ability for them to sign and close with you, you're just putting objections in the way. You're just getting things in the way. If you make it hard for the person, then your deals are going to take longer, right? I mean, if you send them a contract online, they can sign it right away. Your close time could be hours. But if you make them sign it and then fax it or email it or scan it back to you, it went from an hour to days, right? You want to make it as fast as possible. I mentioned this on our previous call. We have a thing coming out, or has come out, called Direct Book, which allows them to do all of this on their own, right? You can send them a Direct Book and they can pick their menu and they can pick everything else and hit submit and sign and deposit. Done, right? We've taken what typically can be days or weeks close down to seconds, because you can do it all online and they can do it all themselves. So make it as easy as possible to sign and pay. And a sample proposal contract. Now, again, this is just a sample. It's just my idea. You don't have to use this at all. There's a lot of, again, you can Google contracts, if you will. You can, again, take it, leave it. That's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But this is a good example in my mind of a proposal and a contract. A brief paragraph about your venue, right? You don't have to go to town. If you got a celebrity chef, go ahead, tout it up. If you have, if you won the James Beard Award, go ahead, tout it out. But you don't have to regurgitate your entire website. An outline or paragraph of the client's needs outlined during the spin discovery. And that's what I was saying earlier, which is now the next paragraph is, according to my notes when we spoke, these were the 6 things that are important to you. Doop, 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 And this is how we're going to help with those 6 things, right? In our previous example, it was, I wanted a dark room. I have you scheduled to be in the Smith room, which has no windows. It's going to be super dark. All your costs, which we just talked about, rentals, minimums, F&Bs, gratuities, admin fees, etc. All of them. Your terms and conditions. Now, a lot of restaurants that I've seen, and hotels too, either have a ridiculous amount of terms and conditions or they have no terms and conditions. But you should put the terms and conditions at the end, not at the beginning, because those terms and conditions, especially now, post-COVID, I'm sure you're going to have, act of God and all that kind of stuff in there, and about how deposits are going to be returned if something goes south again. They're going to start, people are going to start reading these terms and conditions again. So you got to put your most important stuff on your terms and conditions in the front, right? Like in the beginning. If you have a no return deposit policy, you should put that in there. And you should put that right there. Don't try to hide it. But you don't have to go crazy on your terms and conditions either, because if you go too bananas on your terms and conditions, they're going to send it to a lawyer, especially corporate business. It's going to go to a lawyer. And the lawyer is going to chew it up because they get paid by the hour, man, and they're going to chew it up and they're going to redline the crap out of it. And it's just going to delay your close. So if there's certain things that you don't necessarily need in there, like, I don't know what it would be, but you should review it and see if you don't need it. I also suggest that if you're adding a new clause like the act of God or return of deposits, you get a lawyer involved, right? Get your own lawyer involved to make sure that you're covering yourself. Lawyers love to complicate stuff, but I advise that you get a lawyer versus, we see a lot of restaurants take other restaurants' terms and conditions, which isn't unusual, right? I mean, people do it all the time. But you should have it reviewed by a lawyer to make sure you're protecting yourself. And then finally, a signature page, which again can be administered and signed online. So you can send the proposal and the contract. If you use Triple Seat, you can do all of this online, sign it, done, finished. If you don't use Triple Seat, there's proposal software out there that you could use. It costs a little bit of money. There's also Adobe. I think it's Adobe. Oh no, DocuSign. DocuSign's not that expensive, where you can upload a Word, any document, and have them sign it. If you ever gotten a mortgage lately, they use DocuSign. You know how it works. But what you want to do is give them the ability to sign with you online and not delay the close. This is the big one. Ask for the business. It's okay. Don't be afraid of the rejection or the objection. Simply ask for the business. Take a deep breath and wait. Say, hey, this is how we close. Really would love to have your business. We think we can really help you. And we tell them why. It's like, can we send you a contract? However you want to do it, ask for the business. You have to ask. And when you do ask, don't answer for them or throw out an objection. People get really nervous at this point. They get all flustered and they start, like we call it show up and throw up, right? They just start rattling words. Like, we really like your business. We think you guys are great. And, don't worry about that, the hole in the ceiling or the leak in the basement, these guys are like, what are you doing? Quiet. just be quiet. So just ask for the business and wait. If what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, I don't think it's a good fit. That's fine. That's not a no, by the way. you can simply ask, oh, why did you, we went through these 6 items and it sounded to me like we were able to accomplish all 6 of the items. Where do you see it not being a good fit? That's an okay question to ask. If they say, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do it now, like we don't have the budget or whatever the case may be, that's kind of a polite way of saying no to you. A lot of people don't go through this whole entire process and then decide not to do it. So you could say, oh, well, bummer. How can I help work with your budget? Don't just be like, oh, okay, that stinks. Like where is it like, causing friction? And maybe there's something I can do, like change the date, change the room. It could be something. It could be an objection, which basically says, the CEO doesn't like fish and you're a fish restaurant. Okay. That's overcomable. Let's talk about food options, right? Again, an objection, a harmless one. But you want those objections so you can answer them. And how most people tell you no is by telling you nothing, right? They'll be like, oh, we'll get back to you. And that's where you want to stay in control and say, hey, listen, no, fine, sounds good. Why don't I send you the contract and a proposal so you understand what it is, and we'll follow up on next week at 3:00. Does that work for you? Right? And a lot of people, they have difficulty like saying no to that. And they'll be like, yeah, that sounds good. They might ghost you after that. But it's very rare that people say nope and then walk away. And most people don't want to let the other salesperson know that they're working with no. They feel bad. So it's important to get the objection. Like I said, get comfortable with silence. The longer you wait for the response, the better. Your buyer is thinking. Don't blow it by talking over it. Again, when you ask for the business and there's that uncomfortable pause, a minute is too long, but 10 seconds feels like a minute or 10 minutes, but it's not a long time. They're thinking. They're legitimately thinking. They're making a buying decision right in front of you. So you can then wait for it. It's coming. Something is coming. And the longer it takes, it's kind of the better it is for you, because they're going to either be like, you know what? Let's do this. Or they're going to be like, you know what? The pricing here is a little higher than is there something you can do there? Boom, we're off to the races, right? But if you say like, I want your business, and then they go like this, and then you go, don't worry about this, don't worry about that, don't worry about this, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. They can't think anymore. And then you might have triggered something that you screwed yourself, because they're like, oh, that's right, I forgot about the hole in the ceiling. Right? So don't interrupt their thought process. Okay. So negotiate from a position of strength. And what I mean by this is, a lot of times what I see with people that close is that they feel that they have to go to get the deal done. They have to go to like DEFCON 4. Right, which would be discounting on price or discounting in general, and they feel right away that they're going to get an objection, and they have to go to DEFCON 4. If you did the spin selling, you understand the strengths and what you bring to the table, you should be comfortable in that. And again, if they come back to you with an objection, be flexible. Be like, oh, right, well, but that's what it is, right? I gave you my best deal based off of your needs that you needed. I really don't have a lot of flexibility in the area that you're looking, but I do have some flexibility. Would you consider doing it on Tuesday? Or would you consider doing it at 7 versus doing it at, 6? Something to that. Start the negotiations. What you don't want to do is hard no. If you hard no them, you put them in a corner, they're just going to bolt. You want to stay flexible in what you can and can't do. Understand your value. Now, there's a difference between saying I'm the best and everybody else stinks, so therefore I'm not going to budge. That's not your value. Your value is what you can do for them and that you've illustrated to them, and they've agreed to that. You need to stick to that. So don't let them cheapen you by saying, hey, listen, space is great. You can do everything. The dark room is perfect. It's exactly what we want. And I know the food is fantastic, but I can only do it for 80% off. You'd be like, be comfortable in your value. Circle back to their needs from the spin. If they come back to you and they say, hey, listen, we really want to do it, but that price is too high, or that date is, we want to do it, whatever. You can say, hey, listen, we're the only restaurant in town that I know of, and I know our competition that can have this dark room, that can do what we went through, that rattle off all 6. So you're reselling the information that they gave you. Don't give the farm away. Sometimes you can't do it, right? But if you start to give the farm away, and what that means is like I need it for 80% off. I want it on a Saturday night, and I want it in your biggest room, and all I'm going to order is soup. And you say yes to that, you gave the farm away. Sometimes, you can't. It all depends on where you are as a business. You should always have goals on what you want to do every month as far as revenue is concerned. Now, if you're, sold 0 and this person's going to, be a sale for you and it's getting towards the end of the month, your flexibility can be a little bit higher, right? But if you're 95% to your goal to the month, you can hang tight. So don't give the farm away. To get, they must give. So if you're going to give it a session, I'll use discount because everybody discounts. But if you say, I'm going to give you a discount, then they should agree to like a rental, a minimum, a different date, a different time, but don't just give it all away. You got to get something in return. That's what negotiations are all about. I'll give you this, but you got to give me that. And don't, this is not the right way of saying it, but don't fall for fluffy crap, which is like, hey, if you do this for me, we'll bring all our business to you. Right? That's unless you can tie them into a long-term contract that says they're going to do that and they're going to put a deposit down on it. That's not a give. Right? That's just them negotiating on air. Again, when I was in hotels and restaurants, if I got a dime for every time I heard that, I could start my own hotel. I got that all the time. A lot of times, the people I sold to were universities like Harvard, MIT. Those, Boston's just chock full of universities, and inside those universities is a bazillion different departments. And I used to get all the time like, hey, listen, if you gave me this space for this, because I'm a university, I'll make sure all our university business comes to you. Never happened at all, because the universities, in my particular case, work independent of each other. So that person didn't even have the chutzpah to even to do it. Have a throwaway. This is an important point. I would use personally, it's up to you guys, but I would use rental as a throwaway. And what I mean by that is you have a food and beverage minimum, let's say it's like $5,000, and you have a rental for for that space, and let's say it's $500. And they come to you and they say, hey, listen, I can't, it's out of my budget and stuff like that. Instead of saying, I'll just discount, throw something away. Be like, I'll tell you what, if you do it, I can waive the rental fee. Because the rental fee doesn't cost you anything. And you can make the rental fee anything you damn please. I choose $500, but you can make it $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. You just don't want to make it so high that it's prohibitive. Or you can waive, if you're going to discount the rental fees. But you always want something that you kind of want. You don't want to have, during negotiations, all your eggs in one basket. I would say 99% of the time, everybody goes for a discount, which is fine. I get it. But you're kind of cutting into your margins. And by doing a discount, I think rental is just an easier throwaway. Or instead of a throwaway, maybe you give a giveaway, which is like I can, for you or your organization, we can throw in, $500 gift certificates, something to that effect. At least you're getting the money back. But always have something that you can throw away or give away. Like I mentioned earlier, don't negotiate on price unless you really want the business. When you negotiate on price, you're discounting your value that you bring. It doesn't matter what the competitors are doing, because if all of a sudden everybody starts discounting on price, it becomes a price war, and you're racing to the bottom. You're actually hurting yourself, and you're hurting your competition too, because if you're going to say it's $100 per person, but you'll give them a discount to $75 per person, they're just going to turn around and go to the other restaurant and say, this restaurant gave it to me for $75 a restaurant. Will you match it? And they're going to be, yeah, I'll give it to you for $74. Then they're going to spin around to you and say, this restaurant is giving it to me for $74. Will you match it? You're actually negotiating against yourself. So you want to stay away from discounting. That's where the throwaway comes into play. And you also, again, remind them what you do for them through your spin selling and say, hey, listen, you needed the dark room, this, and this. I mean, and I can't do that. And it's also okay to remind them that you're a business too. Say, listen, I got to pay my staff. I got to pay my food bill. I got to pay electrical bill. We're a business too. I just can't give it away. And people understand that. Sometimes the best deal is the deal you didn't do. You should know when to walk away. If the person's just beating you up on price and they're just, relentless and they're actually getting kind of nasty, don't do the deal. Just don't do it. Again, most of the times, those are the deals, those are the best ones to walk away from. So sometimes good deals are the deals that you walk away from. Then act quickly. Time kills all deals. It's a fact. You should know what your sales time frame is, like from lead to close. If it's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, whatever the case may be. If you're tracking past 3, 5, 7 days, 10 days, that deal ain't happened. You've been ghosted, or they found somebody else. But it's more time you waste getting to the close. It gives them more time to start negotiating with other people who are looking around, or for your competitor to backdoor you. Meaning like, hey, I heard you are looking at this restaurant. Have you considered our restaurant? And being backdoored on a deal stinks. And that only happens because you let too much time lapse. All right. Deal killers. Why your sure thing goes dark. No clear date-driven next steps. I talked about this at our previous call. If you don't guide the sale, it's going to drag on forever. And how you guide a deal is as simple as having them agree to a date and time to talk next. We sometimes call them mini closes, which is like, is it okay if we talk on Tuesday at 3:00 to go over this or over the proposal? If they say yes, you just closed a mini deal. If you just say, hey, I'm going to send you a proposal and a contract and leave it at that, you're not guiding the sale. You're now in the wind. And you're going to spend a lot of your time doing the follow-up dance, as I like to call it, like just following up on the follow-up. Lack of follow-through. Lack of follow-through is a deal killer too. If you say you're going to give them a proposal like in an hour or the next day and you don't, no bueno. You've lost that deal because you've lost their trust. So you spent all this time with them building this trust and showing the value, and then you don't do what you say you're going to do. No good. Always follow through. Set high expectations from them and exceed them. Always exceed them. Time, like I mentioned earlier, time kills all deals. A poor proposal does not identify the needs of the prospect. Again, if you just have a proposal that's just regurgitating your website with a bazillion pictures on it, and not identifying their needs, and then hiding pricing, you're going to lose the deal. It's a lock. People don't buy your restaurant because your proposal's pretty. They simply don't. They buy from you because of you, and because you're clear and concise. A lack of urgency. So what this means is that there's no urgency on the event. Now, obviously, if you're selling wedding places, they want it on June 5th, so there's urgency. But you can build urgency. And what I mean by that is saying, hey, listen, you want this particular date. I have a lot of people looking at this particular date. I need you to kind of make a decision sooner than later. Now, this isn't a cheesy sales tactic, but if you don't have a sense of urgency inside your deals, there's no reason for them to sign right away unless they want to do that event that day and it's coming up in the next week, right? Because that they have urgency. They have to get this event done in a week. But now, if you're selling out into the future, into like June, July, May, whatever the case may be, you need a sense of urgency. And when you call them up, you want to be saying to them, hey, listen, I was looking at June and June's starting to fill up. So this is the reason I gave you a call. Are you interested in doing a board meeting here or whatever the case may be? That builds a sense of urgency. You did not identify your competition. It is okay to ask them who else they're looking at. They might not answer you, right? But why not ask? What you don't want to do is start bashing your competitor. Don't be like, oh, geez, you're looking at them. Well, they suck. And, they burn their food and their service quit every week. Don't do that. You just want to know who their competition is. So you just get an understanding, and you can kind of get an understanding of what their budget is too. If their competition's average check size is $50, $60 lower than yours, you can kind of get a better understanding of who you're working with. But whatever you do, don't bash the competition. Don't. There's a thing called oh God, I can't remember what it is. I'll remember it. FUD. It's called FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A lot of salespeople use FUD. And what FUD is, it looks like this. It's like, oh, you're looking at, Bob's restaurant. He's been bankrupt twice. That's FUD. You're putting uncertainty into the buyer's mind. It's selling on FUD is, it's below you. Don't do it. Stuck with a NOPO or a CMOR. So what a NOPO is, a no power. That's what that stands for. A no power is a person, who no power is because they tell you about their power. So a no power person is somebody who doesn't have the authority to make the deal. But they like to talk to salespeople. They like to talk to you. You probably feel like you have a great relationship with them, but they can never close because they don't have the authority to close the deal. They don't have the authority to sign. They're not the decision maker. But they love salespeople and they always talk to you. being stuck with a NOPO, you have to identify the fact that you have a NOPO. And I really wouldn't bank on the fact that it's getting closed. There's a lot of them out there. And unfortunately, when you get stuck with the one, they give you a lot of false hope. You're kind of with one when they say, oh yeah, we're doing this event on June. And then, oh no, we're doing it in July. And oh no, we're doing it in August. They keep pushing you out. You're stuck with a NOPO. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of tips on how to get around a NOPO, because once you challenge their power, they'll just go away. They'll be like, I'm out. And maybe that's what you want. Sometimes you can ask the question, who's the decision maker is, but that's a really rude question. And it'll probably turn them off. You can ask a question in a different way, which is like, who else besides you makes a decision on these events? So you kind of pull them in. That's kind of a more subtle, easier way to ask that question. And the other person you can get stuck with is what we call a Seymour. A Seymour is a person who always wants to see more, right? They're like, oh, for a restaurant or hotel, they might want another site visit. Or they might want another tasting. Seymours are as bad as NOPOs. And they sometimes with Seymours, how to get it done is you just have to say, what's it going to take to get this done? I mean, you've seen the property 6 times. I've given you 3 tastings. I've given you all the information you've asked for times 10. What else do you need right this second for us to get this deal done? And that's an okay question to ask. And that's how you shake the Seymours. All right. And then my last slide here is, not all heroes wear capes. And I want to end here is that you're all salespeople. And I'm fully cognizant of the fact that the majority of restaurants and hotels right now are closed, and they're not doing business in January, and probably not in February either. But that doesn't mean you can't start doing everything we went through in the last 4 seminars and start building out your pipeline. You can start building out your pipeline and start taking bookings. It's up to you, but March, April, May, June, July, August, you can start booking now. You have to do it now. If you wait until June, if you wait until July, you miss the boat. It's too late. The other thing with sales is, I always say this to people, sales is the best and the worst job you could have. It's the best job in the fact that you can be independent. You can work from home. You can work from anywhere. And if you're a competitive person and you're into, interactions with people, it's really a satisfying job. Not to mention, if you're on commissions, you're a walking ATM machine, right? The more you sell, the more you make. It's the worst job because it's measurable. Like, you don't bring in any deals, you're no good. And people will cut you loose. And so, and that's kind of what's happened with 2020 and COVID, is that, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but, in 2019, you were turning away business. It was just so many leads coming in, and it was just so busy. And then 2020 happened, and all of a sudden, event people were the first to go. And the reason they were the first to go is because, in my opinion, the salespeople couldn't show the value that they bring to the organization, to the owner, because the owner was looking at this like it was a piece of cake, right? Like, why do I need a salesperson when I don't have event business? But that's when you do need salespeople. You need them because they're the ones that are going to bring you back. And if you let all your salespeople go, and you have the attitude of, I'll just wait for the leads to come in, they're devaluing what you do. So it's important that you're constantly showing owners, general managers, VPs, operators, whoever you report to, that you're bringing in business, that you have value. And And the only way to do that is by actually bringing in business, right? You can't talk to it. You have to show it. So it's important that all these, and the reason we did all these seminars is to help kickstart or jumpstart you guys and ladies to bring the business in. Don't have the attitude of we're not open. Everybody knows you're not open. You're not booking for February. You're booking for, like I said, June, July, August. My other point here is you should come up with ideas and bring them to the owner of like what you can sell and what you can do right now. Catering is something you can sell. What does catering mean to you? There's different flavors of catering. There's pickup catering. Maybe you make huge trays like for Super Bowl that's coming up, right? Make huge trays of stuff and people can come and pick it up and take it with them, right? But you can sell that. You can market that. You can be part of that. There's drop-off catering. Maybe people are having a Super Bowl party at their house, right? You can market that. You can sell that. That's an event. Sell that catering. Bring it to them. This full service catering where you're bringing the staff, the tables, and the chairs. You can sell that. You can go out there and market towards that and close that. It doesn't have to be, your value isn't necessarily in the business itself, like in on premise. It isn't. There's a lot you can do right now, but you have to show your value to the people that pay you. So get out there and be like, and really, really tout what you're doing. Say, hey, listen, I brought in on my own, not from a website, not from anything else, but through my email marketing, through my outbound marketing, through my inbound marketing, I brought us in 6 or 7 leads. And not only did I bring in 6 and 7 leads, I closed 5 of them. So now we have 5 businesses, 5 events that you didn't even know we had in August or whatever the case may be. I came up with the catering. And now I sold 10 Super Bowl packages. I did that. And that's what the value that I bring. But you have to start right now. Don't wait for the business to come back.